Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. This guy joined me at the Super Bowl in Atlanta, and I think we were forewarned about your call football, but he and I were talking the old Edge NFL matchup and Steelers-Ravens rivalry and all that stuff. He'll be doing your call football here this week. We welcome Merril Hoge back onto the program on the other side of free agency. You've been busy around here, Merril. Been crazy around here football-wise, right?
Yeah, man, free agency hits and the frenzy begins.
Well, all your team walks out the door, right? I mean, in one 24-hour period, we watched a Joe Flacco press conference in Denver, a Terrell Suggs press conference in Arizona, a C.J. Mosley press conference with the Jets, and an Eric Weddle press conference with the Rams. We got back now. Earl Thomas and Mark Ingram, they've signed a couple players, but it is a definite a time for a scorecard and adjustment around here, Merril.
Yeah, well, your team took a serious facelift. You know, I mean, they're a transformation. Obviously, you could see that kind of coming about, you know, towards the end of last year. But it'll be interesting to see how it really evolves, and you know how Lamar Jackson develops, because there's a lot of development there that has to take place. Some of it, I don't know if it'll ever get there, you know, to be consistent enough to have the threat of throwing the football, because you have to have the complete phase. There's nobody bigger fan of run the football. And when you guys run the football like you're out, wouldn't that be amazing if they were able to win a Super Bowl like that? You know, but eventually your inability to throw the football and complement that does catch up with you. And it catches up with you when it matters. So we'll see how his development comes, you know, here in the next several years, to see if he can complement what you guys are doing in the running game.
I wrote a Dear Joe Flacco letter to him for, you know, all that he contributed here, and obviously Suggs contributed as much, if not more, through all the years. But Flacco going to Denver, Elway betting on him, here he comes. Is he going to play a playoff game again, Merril?
Well, I think so. I think when you look at what Denver has done, they have complemented put themselves in a position to complement themselves, meaning we just talked about the compliment you guys are going to have to get is that passing compliment at some point, because obviously, clearly, you're going to be able to be dynamic around the football. You're going to need that compliment eventually. What Denver has done is brought Joe in. When you look at their offensive line, Munchak coming over from Pittsburgh, establishing the ability to control the line and the tempo in the NFL, which is so important. But to complement that from a quarterback position, Joe really, when you look at the people available, one of the best options for that. And I think he does that for them. And when you look at what they do defensively, with Vic Fangio coming in there, having guys like Von Miller, what they did in the secondary, their ability to match up, yet change coverages, but yet pressure. So, you know, they got a lot of, they're built to complement and have the phases you need to vie for a championship.
Merril Hoge joining us here on behalf of Your Call Football, and I know you've been involved with this a little bit. I've talked to Solomon Wilcots about it as well. This is an interesting, fun sort of, I want to say off-season. I don't know if there is any off-season at this point, Merril, but you guys are doing matchups for the better part of a month, and it's all winding down, correct?
Yeah, this is our last game tonight, you know, and if fans are just hearing about this, one thing you can go to, because you're not going to remember everything, is yourcallfootball.com, and that will lay it out and explain it to you. Everything is free, doesn't cost fans anything. The app is free, streaming is free, but you can make money by really being an offensive coordinator. It's like live Madden. Both of us are head coaches, but I'm an offensive coordinator for my team. So every down and distance, I put what's called a bundle of plays up on the screen. 3 play options. Fans vote on them. The majority of votes go to whatever play that is. It's sent in to me, and I send it into the huddle. And it's like that the entire game. We have no kickoffs. We have no punts. Once you cross the 50, you got to go for it on 4th down or kick a field goal. So it's really a new way for fans to be interacting through the entire game, have control of the game, feel what it's like to call plays the entire game, and make money in the process. So it's a win-win for fans.
I guess from a football perspective here in the offseason, we're all looking to say, where is our team? Nobody has to go play this week. But the Earl Thomas thing, first things first, it's great that the Ravens can still attract that kind of a player. He is a fascinating cat. I sat and watched his press conference, and we called him future Hall of Famer. I'm not sure if you completely agree with that, but they have had a heart transplant for this defense, and I think have upgraded above Eric Weddle, which isn't easy to do, in Earl Thomas.
Yeah, well, listen, I think there's a potential Hall of Fame there. I don't think that that would be solidified right now, but this clearly could be an opportunity for him to do that, to get back to the level of play that he was at a few years ago, and then, they declined as a team all at the same time. But what you guys got in place, you obviously lost some key guys, which, you just don't replace those cats, but you got a lot of good football players. I mean, your defense, you got playmakers everywhere, so maybe they're, the Suggses of the world are, household name. Those, but you obviously know, Raven fans know there's a lot of good football players across the board in that box, outside that box, that are going to make them a dangerous defense. And if he can bring his leadership and his experience there, get his game back to where it once was, he not only helps himself, but he helps you guys.
Man, Odell Beckham comes into the division. Antonio Brown leaves the division. You spent plenty of time in the division, Merril. Thoughts about where this Browns thing is? They are going to be the sexy team right on up until Labor Day. We play football. They're the ones everyone's talking about. Now they have to go out there and, fulfill the promise of winning 10 games when it sort of ain't never been done there, right?
Yeah. Well, they went right from, not winning a game to having a winning season to now going to be the front runner to win the Super Bowl. That's a big jump. When you look at the personnel they have, here's what I just think people lose sight on. All-star teams don't win championships. I mean, for every star player, there's 5 role players, and that's really how teams are built. There's not stars everywhere, and if there is, are they really a team? And the chemistry and how things come together, that takes time. So when does that all come together for them? Putting this offense together that really capitalizes on what all of them do well is going to be a trick. It's tricky. And it's not just, okay, we want to line up because we got great players, we win. That's just not how it goes. I mean, and it isn't like they're so much better now than everybody else are going to play. It's like, oh, nobody has a shot. That's what I love about where the league is right now. I mean, the parity is awesome. And just because you don't have a bunch of big names doesn't mean you don't compete well, and you don't match up well, and you can't beat them. So until they win, it's just on paper. And there's just a lot of variables there that you got to consider, and they are hurdles, and they got to be worked on. And, that's where a lot of coaching does come into play. Selfless acts come into play. And we'll see if that unfolds for them, because that will be part of how they come together as a team.
Selfless acts, he says. He is Merril Hoge, longtime NFLer and matchup analyst, now with Your Call Football. You can learn more about what they're doing there at yourcallfootball.com. Merril's also written a book, and I know we had a spirited debate about Brainwash, the bad science behind TCE and the plot to destroy football. I know you stand firmly behind that. I've had concussion specialists on. We spend our Super Bowl week talking about that. How's the book doing? And I know that there's a lot of controversy involved in your thoughts in regard to CTE.
Yeah, well, what I think interesting about what you said there? It isn't what I say, quite honestly. It's actually what the science says. And that's what is corrupt about the whole thing and is absolutely grotesquely wrong, is that people talk about and say things there's no scientific evidence behind. They can't prove scientifically. Example, concussions don't cause CTE. Playing contact sports at any level, at any age in your life, is not going to cause CTE. Nobody knows what CTE is or how it gets, what causes it or what it causes. They do know it's a pattern that they have discovered, but they've discovered it in people who've never played sports, never had a history of head trauma, never had a concussion in their life. And it doesn't mean they had any symptoms because nobody knows what they are. But yet you hear people speak like, oh, concussion cause it. You play youth football. It's going to have these issues later in life. There is no scientific evidence of that. And nobody asks the people that say that to prove it. So, hey, just show me the scientific evidence. That's why I wrote the book, to give you all of the facts, to let you make a choice. You can go to brainwashbook.com. The science papers are there. I want you to read stuff. I want people to know the truth and empower themselves with all the facts. That's the only way you can make good decisions in life. And what we do and what the media has really failed to do when somebody starts saying, well, when your kids play football, especially at a young age, these things are going to happen later in life. There's no scientific evidence of that. There's no physical evidence of that. And we need to start asking, well, then prove it. Give me the scientific standards and steps and literature that says that has been scientifically proven. And they can't come up with it. They don't have it, and they make up a narrative without that scientific evidence as if it does exist. And unfortunately, most people see the media or the local paper or something like the New York Times, which on this subject is about as corrupt as a thing that I've ever seen, and they believe it without asking questions and using some common sense, just going, well, if you had a sudden shift in life at an age of 7 to 11, so that means if you jumped on a trampoline, went for a ride, went on a roller coaster, played in the backyard, recess at lunch as a kid, okay, forget contact sports because concussions can happen anywhere. Sudden shifts happen all over the place. Wheeled sports, we would be all doomed. There wouldn't be a person on this planet that wouldn't have some type of neural brain disease later in life. There's no scientific evidence of that. In fact, there's more evidence that speaks to this. Here's the thing that causes, when you look at leading causes of brain disease, cardiovascular disease, and cancers: inactivity, obesity, drugs, alcohol, opioids, age, and genetics, if there's a genetic lead to your family. There's only two things that I just mentioned there you don't control: age and genetics. Okay, the other things you do control. Okay, sugar and obesity, leading cause of brain diseases, and cardiovascular disease, and cancers. Okay, inactivity, alcohol, drugs, opioids, all of those things are scientifically proven to be contributors to all the things I've talked to you about. Contact sports, and specifically football or hockey, there is nothing scientific that says if you do those things, you're going to have some type of brain disease later in life. Absolutely none.
Merril Hoge has written a book on concussions and on CTE. It's called Brainwash, the Bad Science Behind CTE and the Plot to Destroy Football. You can follow him on Twitter at Merril Hoge. You can find him out at Your Call Football, where he is an analyst along with Solomon Wilcotson playing their game on Monday night. And, of course, during football season, always a Steeler, once a Steeler. Boy, you and I got together 2 months ago, wind up where these guys were going to wind up. Le'Veon Bell with the Jets, Antonio Brown with Oakland. It has certainly been a little bit of a raid on the Steelers here this offseason, as well as, I guess Mike Tomlin now walking on some eggshells in Pittsburgh suddenly, right?
Well, listen, there's been a lot of turnover there. There's a lot of things that are talked about without any real hard facts of stuff. Listen, Antonio Brown is a dynamic player, but he also is a quitter. He quit on the team. Okay, and he was never about the team. This didn't just happen. Trying to blame Antonio Brown using excuses for, how he was raised, pointing the finger with no accountability. We'll see how it goes in Oakland when you're week 8 and you have maybe 50 receptions and only 500 yards.
Yeah, let's see how he likes losing after a while. I mean, all these guys go to Pittsburgh. All they do is win, win, win. It's like New England, right. Win. I loved how Belichick, when I was reading about him a couple weeks ago, his last line to any agent is, does your guy want to win or not? If he wants to win, he'll come here. If he doesn't, he can go anywhere else. I mean, we're going to win here. Antonio Brown's not going to hear about it. He'll hear about it in Oakland, but they're not going to win.
You're exactly right. And just think of the expectations. I'm just going to tell you this. I know this for a fact, okay? I've experienced it, okay? Everybody always puts their expectation level beyond the true reality. Meaning, Antonio Brown is over there. What has he had on average? 100 receptions. He's in the 1,800 yards on average. Okay, he's got to do that or more for the Raiders, and if he does that, they're supposed to win 10, 11 games. That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And when it doesn't happen, then what happens? Then the true character of that person shows up. Well, we've already seen what happens. Things got a little tough. He doesn't get the MVP. He decides, I'm not going to play. He's late how many times? There's been a historic there, not just even in the football environment. I knew about him outside the environment. He had a radio show sometimes. I mean, he was never on time, too. But sometimes he didn't even show up to. Like, I don't know how irresponsible you can be. I don't know how many times that you can sit there and go, oh, that's because of how I was raised. That's because, I had a rough childhood. We all got excuses. There's not a person listening to you right now couldn't create an excuse for some behaviors later in life. And that's exactly how you're going to live your life, and that's exactly what you can expect in life. Or you can break chains and find solutions.
Always
things that are different.
It's always good to catch up with you, dude. And there's plenty of football to be played here, and plenty of games to be played as we get up on the draft. I know you'll be playing games with your call football as well. I know it's been a lot of fun for you to do that. Always good to visit, man. And I'm glad you're feeling well. And come on and visit with us after the draft, Merril.
You betcha, my good brother. Good luck to you guys in the draft.
Merril Hoge joining us here. He doesn't mean that. He's a Steeler guy saying nice things to Ravens fans. There he goes. Find him at Your Call Football, and you can find him out on Twitter at Merril Hoge. That's one L in Merril Hoge as well. The book is Brainwashed, the Bad Science Behind CTE and the Plot to Destroy Football. Always good to catch up with him. Appreciation for Solomon Wilcots as well. Check out our friends at Your Call Football for all they're doing out there. And go play along. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. And everything you hear here you can find out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We come in crystal clear. The kids call it podcasting. We call it the buyatoyota.com audio vault. Big week around here. March Madness, baseball getting ready, and of course I'm headed to the owners' meetings in Phoenix, Arizona to cover all things Purple and John Harbaugh and breakfast and all that good stuff. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.